So I've been making a lot of videos lately that are not evolution simulator videos, and I have indeed gotten the impression that people don't really seem to care about those videos, and that's fine. But I haven't really done anything with my evolution simulator for a few months. That was until about last week, when I pretty much just rewrote pretty much how everything works in it. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to give you a link so that you can download the evolution simulator, as well as giving you a quick little tutorial on how to get started running some experiments on your own. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to place two food spawns. Click up here and then click on the map to place them. Food spawns have four little attributes. You click to scroll through them, and you can use the scroll wheel to change them. They have the range, which is the maximum range that they'll spawn stuff in. The hue, which is their color. 64 is the default. They have their type, which can be carbs, poison, protein, or empty. And they have frame rates, or frames per spawn. So that means a food pellet will be spawned every however many frames. So 10 would be a slower spawner than 1. I hope that's not too confusing. If we scroll out, you will see that the two spawns have... They're very not centered at all. That's not good. But their circle, their maximum range, is demonstrated. It's just that 6,000 is a very large range. I'm going to erase those, and I'm going to place a food spawn right in the center. Okay, so now that that's done, place two, and creatures will need carbs and protein to survive. So I'm going to place those two, and then have them spawn. They are intentionally the same color. So the color is not just cosmetic, it's actually kind of a big deal because the creatures see colors differently. So I'll explain, maybe in a later video, maybe this one, how exactly that works, but it's not cosmetic. And for ease of evolving, you're going to want to keep them the same color to start off with. So basically, when you get this program, you'll have a zip folder, and it comes with a default exportFile.txt, and when the program starts, it loads that file, and it makes it so the place creature file, or the place creature button, will place whatever creature is saved in that file. So these creatures here are ones that I custom designed, and they have 13 custom nodes and a large neural network. Basically, they can seek out food, and they will, find what type of food is closest to them and seek it out, and, a few other things. But this is the basic neural network. The purple nodes are the output, the yellow-brown ones are the input, and the blue ones are the custom ones that are, like hidden layers, I suppose. It's also important to note that the connections here, red is a negative weight, green is a positive weight. Any nodes which are not somehow connected to an output layer node are not shown. So the chart starts at the output layers and works backwards, graphing anything connected to them. The numbers at the top are their ID. For the input and output, they actually translate to certain variables that are being input into the neural network, but I will need to replace them with actual descriptions later. For now, they're just numbers, just like the custom ones. Down here is the threshold. So, for example, this node will be 1 when all of its inputs are greater than 1. For some that are, say, sigmodal, you'll have a very similar thing that says sigmodal and then a number for the curve value. Anyway, I'm going to unpause, and you will see these guys will start spawning. So yeah, that's pretty nice. The green thing, pause it for a second, the green thing shows where they are moving towards, and the gray lines show what they are looking at. Creatures can see the two closest things to them. The box around them shows you their maximum extent of their vision. So yeah, that'll all be shown on debug view, so you're going to want to turn that on if you want extra information. You can see its age in frames, its generation, how many children it's had, its carbs, its proteins, movement angle speed, memory. Species ID is just a function of the IDs of all of its nodes. It died. But anyway, you can see that these creatures, since they are specially programmed by me, are indeed very good at surviving. So they have already gone from the 4 that I placed to over 29, 28. So yeah, that's not bad at all. So you can see, zoom out, and you will see that these guys have indeed spread all over. That's pretty nice. One thing you're going to keep in mind is that when you start off, I really should have turned the mutation rate to 0 at first. Because the mutation rate is not like a percentage of creatures, it's actually how often a mutation rate occurs, like in seconds. So that means that the lower the amount of creatures, the higher any particular creature has of personally being mutated, regardless of what the mutation rate is. So you're going to want to look down here, and right here it'll say for whatever graphing interval is, default is 6 seconds. The right number is the total amount of creatures dead in that interval, and the left number is how many of those creatures experienced at least one mutation within their lives. So you're going to want to play around with this number, and then wait for this to pan out, such that you don't have more than like 1/3 of creatures being mutated, or else you'll literally be like shooting with so much radiation you'll just kill them, and just make it impossible for them to evolve. So play around with that. So yeah, the main takeaway is lower mutation rates when you only have a few creatures. Once you have like 100 or 200 creatures, then you can crank it up to like 5, 10, I don't know. Just keep that number in mind. So yeah, this is pretty rudimentary. We're already up to 52 creatures just from those few. You can go oldest to snap onto the oldest creature. You can go newest to the newest creature, lowest generation, and highest generation. That's nice. Movement mode, I wouldn't screw around with that. It basically makes it so rather than the creatures selecting their velocity, they simply apply a force, which basically, in practice, it just makes them slide around like they're on ice. Seed is a random seed. Min creatures will add random creatures whenever the amount of creatures is lower than a certain number. You got quick save, quick load, autosave. It autosaves every 10 minutes. So you can, if you start up your program later, after a crash or something, you can just do an autosave. Spawn creatures will spawn 250 random creatures in the upper right quadrant of the thing. Mutation order. So that is the % chance that a mutation order will affect the body rather than the mind. So if I were to crank this up to 90, then the creatures' bodies would evolve quicker than their minds. And right now it's set so their minds will evolve quicker than their bodies. Food age is how many frames a pellet can be on the grid before it disappears. And this is just a little thing that can allow you to set a preference for adding or deleting nodes via mutations. Importing a text file will re-import exportFile.txt, which you can export by doing text export. Or you can do copy gene and then place creature, which will just copy its gene directly without having to export and re-import. But doing text import and import text file is the exact same thing. You can also kill it, control it, and like I said earlier, view its brain. Now I'm going to splice in another clip of me starting something from scratch so you can see what evolution should look like from scratch. Here we see a nice blank slate right here. This is completely clear, and I restarted the program. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down carbs. I'm going to, just for fun, I will make its hue, I'll make its hue 0. Why not? So there'll be red pellets this time. Do the same thing here. Turn its hue to 0. Make it protein this time. Now what you're going to want to do is turn down the mutation rate. Turn up the minimum creatures to, I'd say, 20 or 30. And then you can pretty much just play it for a little while. And that is about it. So you're basically just going to want to sit around and watch these guys. As you'll notice, a lot of them just sit and don't do anything. View its brain? Yeah, nothing. There's barely anything there. No custom nodes, only 2 connections. This has a custom node, but it's not connected to anything. It's all, pretty rudimentary. So I would estimate that it could take up to a few hours for interesting things to develop, and it all depends on how you play around with the values and what selective pressures you actually do. Also, how fast your CPU is at processing. Your frame rate is going to be a pretty big deal. But yeah, this will graph your creatures for you, and it will autosave, so don't worry about that. Yeah, so you're pretty much just going to leave it running like this for quite some time. This right here is one last little clip I'd like to add in here, and it is the result of a very similar evolution run-through that I did earlier today. And it only took about 45 minutes for the creatures to naturally evolve the tendencies to seek out food. I mean, it's not perfect like my thing that I programmed. They will seek out each other or eggs or just about anything. But regardless, these creatures will sort of seek out food. You need to kind of get them alone to see it at its best. So you'll see it also has another issue where if it gets stuck, where it can't do a sharp enough turn, it will just orbit a pellet of food. This is probably, see, okay. You can see it very nicely there. See, there it goes. It's locked on. So yeah, this is pretty much it at its best. But one thing that's surprising is if you look at its brain, it only has one custom node and not a lot of connections. I mean, you're probably talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 connections for the whole thing. And only one custom node that's actually connected to anything. So yeah, it's not like crazy or anything, but this is what you can probably expect if you do everything right after about 45 minutes. From then on, you can pretty much just play with it and do whatever you want. Some experiments I would probably suggest is changing the hue and seeing how long it takes them to adapt. You're going to want to probably nudge it along very slowly, don't just switch it up completely. So maybe do like 15 hue at a time and wait like 15 minutes for them to adapt to it. You can try lessening the food, increasing the food, introducing a little poison, and make sure the poison is a different color, obviously, so that they can avoid it. Yeah, things like that. Yeah, I just wanted to make a video so that I could release this, and I'll probably make a few follow-up videos with interesting things or updates to the program itself. Thanks for watching.